Hello and welcome to Yoga with me, Kerry O'Fee. I'm Kerry, of course, as always. Today we're going to be taking a look at wrist pain in yoga. I have just finished instructing my Sunday morning class on CloudFit, which I will throw the link down below if you do want to check it out. But I've just been thinking that quite a lot of people, if they do a lot of yoga, can start to struggle with fatigue in the wrist, where there might be a bit of a tweak or something doesn't quite feel right, as well as I've had a couple of students tell me that they struggle with mobility in their wrists at the beginning of the class. So just when your muscles aren't quite warmed up, you are putting a lot of strain on the wrists. We are in our hands quite a lot in yoga, especially in vinyasa where it's very dynamic, and we are creating a lot of movement in the wrists and these small little joints that have lots and lots of bones in them. So we just want to make sure that we're looking after our wrists effectively so that it doesn't impair our practice or cause injury at any point as we flow. So what we're going to do today is I'm just going to show you a nice way to really warm up the wrists if you do struggle with tight wrists beginning of the practice, as well as some ways which you can modify your practice just to help look after your wrists as you flow. Let's just start with that little wrist warm up. I was taught this in my 200-hour teacher training at Wellness Connection. I'll also throw the link down below. Really awesome teachers there, really great place to do your teacher training if you are looking to do it. Yeah, so if you do struggle with a little bit of discomfort in the wrist at the beginning of the practice, but it tends to ease up as you go through the class, give this little wrist warm up a go. So what you do, you're just sitting down comfortably on your mat. You're just gonna slowly start by rolling out the wrists, just about 10 times. My wrists are very clicky. And then going inwards about 10 times as well. Just getting the movement going. Good. And then from here, you're going to extend right arm down, pushing that right hand down with the left hand, getting a nice stretch into this forearm muscle. Holding here for a little bit. And then changing it up as you push that right hand back. Just gently increasing that range of motion on the wrists. Good, and then swapping sides, left hand down, getting that stretch into that nice forearm muscle again. This is really good if you're a typer as well. And then changing it up, other way, pushing that left hand back. Good. Then flicking your fingers out towards the side, get the blood flowing towards the hands, as if you're squeezing like a little stress ball. Good. Then take the arms overhead as you reach them up, getting that little squeezing motion. Good, and then coming down, doing the same again. Just feeling the range of motion as it increases and getting the mobility going before the class. Good, and then just shaking it out. You can do that as many times as you need, but hopefully after doing that, your wrists are feeling a bit warm and nice and mobile. So yeah, give that a try before your class, and now let's jump into some modifications on how to look after your wrists in your practice. Okay, so now we're going to drop down onto the mat and I'm going to show you how to look after your wrists as you go through your flow. So in yoga, we are on our hands quite a lot. And when you are like in a high plank or even just a tabletop, which is where your knees are underneath your hips, there's quite a lot of pressure going straight down into the wrists, and there's lots of little bones in here that we need to look after. So first of all, you want to work on the placement of the hands. This is also different for every person. It depends on their comfort and their physiology, but generally what you want to do is have your index finger pointing forwards. What this does is it tends to stop this forearm muscle from fatiguing as we go from our downward dog to high planks and all of those sorts of movements. So index finger pointing forwards, but depending on your practice, your teacher may instruct you to turn in slightly or turn out, depending on what your shoulders need in your down dog and in your practice. So that's number one, hand placement. Index finger forward, and finding what works for you. Ask your teacher if you need to make any adjustments here. Next is, because you're putting a lot of pressure straight down onto the wrist with the hands directly underneath the shoulders, you really want to look after the bones in the wrist. So to do this, instead of keeping a flat hand with your fingers pressing down, I mean even this is putting quite a bit of strain on my wrists, what you want to do is you want to grip into the mat. So you see how my fingers lift up, really gripping into the mat. This is quite nice if you're getting really tired and need to take some frustration out on the mat. Just be like, So what this does is, you see how it creates a bit of a rise, and what that does, instead of being flat-handed like this, you grip into the mat and you actually start to strengthen the muscles in the hand. And by doing this, the strain and the pressure of the weight comes into the hand. You strengthen the hand muscles and take a good portion of the pressure off of these little wrist bones. So always gripping into the mat to look after those wrists, creating this little space underneath here, as well as this little space through here. And if this little gripping technique still isn't working for looking after the wrists, I'm going to show you how to make a wedge with a towel which you can place underneath your mat. So what you're going to do, you're just going to grab any standard towel, and to fold it in half, it should then be as wide as your mat. From here, we're just going to fold it into a wedge. So what you're going to do, just slide it back, fold it over. You only need it to be about just shorter than thicker than your hand. So here I could probably go a little bit shorter. So you see how my fingers come over this point here. Then you're going to bring the towel back and coming back a little bit further this time to create a step, and then over again, lining up this back edge and then folding back and over. You see how that creates a wedge here. So now what this is going to do, we're going to place it here where our hands go, underneath our mat. So just lift up the mat, slide your wedge underneath, and making sure it lines up with where your hands would go. And now you see I have this slope on my mat. Only thing is here, make sure that you have a very good non-slip mat. Otherwise this will make your practice very uncomfortable because you'll keep sliding down the slope. And what this does, you see here, by being on this slight wedge shape, it takes a lot of the strain in terms of the intensity of the angle off the wrist. So I'll show you a little comparison. This is it here with the wedge, and this is it without. So you can see it just creates a nice wider angle here, meaning there's a lot less strain. So as you go from your high plank up and back to a downward dog, it also just reduces the angle, thus reducing the amount of pressure that's being sent straight down into the wrist bones. I hope that was helpful in terms of learning that positioning of the hands is really important in your practice. Generally, index fingers are pointing forwards, but ask your teacher if you need to adjust that slightly depending on your shoulders and alignment of your body. Next is the gripping into the mat. This looks after the wrists and really builds some good strength in the hands so that you don't put too much strain on the wrists, as well as get some nice fundamental strength in the hands, and like I said, take out some frustration on the mat if you are really fighting in that plank pose or whatever posture you're in. And then lastly, that little wedge, try that out, and if all of these still don't really help you, please do go and consult a physician, someone to have an actual look at your wrists and check that there isn't any underlying issues, because as much as I can give you all these tips and advice, it's also a bit difficult because I'm not there in person with you. I can't see to make adjustments, but hopefully this was able to give you a little bit of information about how to warm up the wrists, looking after the wrist bones, as well as a little adjustment with a wedge cushion. If you found this video helpful, give it a like, a nice little thumbs up always helps me out. As well as if you have any requests, give me a comment down below. And if you really enjoy the content that I do have, subscribe, ring that notification bell. You can also check me out on Instagram, I'll throw my link down below, as well as check out my Facebook page, and let's connect, let's share the experience of doing yoga together. Have a lovely day, namaste.